How old are you? Bro, I'm old enough to be in a nursing home, okay? I'm old, man, alright? Let me go and take a... Wait. Dodie press continue. Don't you dare talk to my dog like that. Alright. What will happen? What will happen today? Do we have tips? Emergency? Abuse issue regarding Satoko Hojo urgent. We propose that Satoko Hojo must be taken into immediate custody based on the items below. Family situation. Life with adoptive father who recently returned to Hinamizawa has already turned disastrous and she is currently subject to unendurable physical and mental abuse from the father. Child Consultation Center's response. A child... Oh my god, my webcam. Rookie mistake. I'm a mess. Child probation officer was dispatched yesterday on the 17th from the prefecture welfare office, but because of the 77 case, changed to continued coaching and cautionary action. These fucking pigs. Unfortunately, the consultation office head does not properly understand the situation. 3. Status of concerned child. Child already appears to be suffering from an outbreak of something close to neurosis or manic depression. If her unstable pubescent mind is negatively stimulated by stress, it will put her development of a healthy body and mind at risk. This cannot be allowed to continue from a humane standpoint. Allegations made to the family court. We propose, based on the above items, that Satoko Hojo immediately be taken into protective custody. She should be secured temporarily under emergency allegations to the family court under Article 28. We request emergency coordination between all related agencies. Damn. D23 number 44. Children with Special Needs General D2-3 number 44. Child name Satoko Hojo. Consultation circumstances. Telephone SOS from child abuse. Abuse situation. Child claims she is being physically abused by her adoptive father. Family structure. Blank marks abusers. Adoptive father, real mother, older brother, child in question. Oh, so this is when she reported her the stepfather. Child is the daughter of the mother's previous husband. Child Consultation Center's response. On the day of the child's telephone consultation, the center called the child's school and asked for a situation. On that day, the child welfare officer on duty visited the child's house and conducted an interview. The adoptive father sincerely listened to instructions and agreed to take child raising workshops in the city from now on. As part of suggested coaching, the center will continue to observe the situation. Other notes: as a result of numerous counseling sessions at the city's education consultation office regarding the child, we learned there was a high possibility the cause of the child's excessive distrust towards her adoptive father was the result of a lack of communication. The abuse she claimed that hadn't actually taken place. She had made a false report to distance herself from her adoptive father. Below is a note written in pencil by the person on duty at the time. The problem appeared to be more with the daughter. Chief Investigator F of the city's education consultation office said that most of her stories of abuse were likely fabrications. They decided to shift the focus of their coaching to the child. Be cautious not to take everything the child says as truth. Ooh. Okay. Here we go. Mion and the others, having set up for a Watanagashi festival or something, invited me along, but I refused. Of course I did. How could we be taking it easy and setting up for a festival in this situation? Mion had a lot of nerve. The first thing I did when I got back was take a shower. Not because I wanted to wash off sweat, it was because I wanted to be even calmer. I already understood this, but killing that man would be so very easy. The really hard thing would be not getting arrested for it, so we could get our peaceful days back. As I thought about it, I realized it wasn't easy. Uncle Flair, thank you for the 2 gifted subs. We're not in the wool category. I don't think you get the thank you. Japan's police force have the highest arrest rate in the world. I would need to deceitfully pull off the perfect crime. It couldn't be a half-hearted attempt. Still, it wasn't 100%. Even the best police force in the world couldn't have a 100% arrest rate. I've read a lot of articles on the trials with people brought up on false charges. At court, they considered whether the charges are false or not, but figuring out the real criminal is entirely out of scope. And that meant perfect crimes did exist. In fact, perfect crimes were sort of like works of art. They could even be respected and revered. You just had to look at the inundation of mystery novels everywhere throughout history. They dealt with all sorts of difficult to solve incidents involving secret rooms and alibis and stuff, but they all wanted to show one thing. They wanted to show the beauty of a perfect crime. There was something divine in the flawlessness of the word perfect. Yes, perfect crimes were skills of the gods. In that sense, the serial freak deaths they were calling the curse of Oyashiro-sama, I understood they must have been the works of gods. Each one appeared to have been resolved, but they couldn't stop it from happening every year. Yes, skills belonging only to gods, those are perfect crimes. And I would be setting up my own crime with Oyashiro-sama's series of perfect crimes 4 years in the running. If I were to put it boldly, I was challenging a god. Foolhardiness would be needed to make the decision, but I needed to be calm, cool, colder than ice to put that plan together. Kill him like a flame, but as systematic as ice. Starting now, I needed to retain both of those ideas within me. Modeling my crime after a mystery novel wasn't actually a bad thing to focus on. Sometimes kidnappings involving disturbing original methods that made it into the newspaper were used as basis for novels after the person was arrested. Stuff like that made it into the news. Day and night for a very long time, mystery novel authors polished and refined their most fantastic artistic crime. Imitating that could be a shortcut to planning the perfect crime in a short period of time. Of course, I haven't read enough mystery novels to act all high and mighty about them. The one who really liked mystery novels was my mom. She'd read every well-known mystery novel from overseas, from past and present. Every time she watched mystery shows, she would always criticize them as having cheap tricks or being poorly thought out. I wonder what the perfect crime would mean to her.
これまでの推理小説の中で母さんが一番よくできたと思った完全犯罪
He's asking his fucking mother.
うん。母さんって 結構たくさん推理小説を読んでるでしょ。そういうの詳しいかなって思って。
それを読むから楽しいのよ。初めからトリックを教えちゃったら楽しみがなくなっちゃうわ。
It wasn't like I was asking for my own amusement. She was deflecting the question so I would somehow butter her up first and draw out an answer.
そうね。よくできた推理小説。結構どれもこれもいろんな魅力があって、どれが面白かったとは言いにくいけど、強いてあげれば。
母さんの好きな小説のタイトルが知りたいんじゃないよ。
Wow, rude.
母さんが一番舌を巻いた完全トリックが知りたいんだよ。
本当に完全なトリックだったら名探偵に解く余地がないじゃない。
That was true. Then there'd be no point.
推理小説は解ける謎をいかに解くかの過程を楽しむものよ。解けない謎だったらそれは推理小説の題材になりえないわね。
そっか。そりゃそうだよな。
Talk about this fucking game, Higurashi.
主人公に解けなかったらお話として成立しないもんな。
Was I being too simplistic? A mystery novel was basically a game. They were written so that you can get to the goal so that you could solve them. But I couldn't use something so optimistic. It needed to be a be-all, end-all of tricks so that we could, without a doubt, return to our old lives.
ということは圭一、真の完全犯罪は物語にすらならないというのがわかるかしら。
Mom looked at me intellectually and grinned ambitiously. I never gotten to read it, but apparently one time, a long time ago, Mom had written her own mystery novel and submitted it for some mystery novel award. Apparently she was really into
物語
it.
にならないってどういう意味？
圭一、物語の最低構成要素は？
起承転結。
It's because there's no ending.
正解。特に肝心なのは当たり前だけど、木に当たる部分よ。スタートの木がなかったらそもそも物語は始まらない。
そりゃそうだよ。何も起こらなかったら何も始まらない。
そう、何も起こらないから事件にもならない。探偵も呼ばれないから推理もない。
Oh, true. No one would know anything even happened.
推理がないなら解決もない。つまりこれが究極の完全犯罪。
ちょっと待って。もう一度説明してくれるかな。
Casey, you fucking idiot. My mom just told me something absurd. And she was saying it so smoothly too, so I kind of tuned her out, but what do you want? What do you want, ugly dog? She said something extremely important just now. There's a fat fuck that wants to sit on my lap.
そんな難しい話じゃないわよ。そもそも事件が発覚しなければいいだけの話。
そもそも発覚しない事件。
つまり、例えばよ、誰も立ち入らない深い森の奥でおじいさんが一人暮らしをしているとする。
うん。
そのおじいさんがある日斧で殺されました。ちなみに犯人はじゃあおじいさんの息子ね。おじいさんの家に来て一緒にお酒を飲んでいたんだけど、ちょっと喧嘩になって殺してしまった。
An extremely cheap plot. It was an impulsive crime without a bit of planning. It was pretty far from a perfect
でも
crime.
圭一、そこはとてもとても深い森の中の一軒家なの。普段は絶対に誰も訪れない深い山奥の深い深い森の中。さて、殺した息子は町に帰ってきてこう言うの。おじいさんは元気だったって。
それのどこが完全犯罪なの？
Nobody knows.
圭一、この事件はね、おじいさんが殺されているのが見つかって初めて木を迎えるのよ。もしもこの後誰もおじいさんの家を訪れなかったら永久に木は訪れない。
Idiot Keiichi, you need everything spelled out for you? The beginning would never occur.
だからつまり物語は始まらない。事件が発覚しないから探偵も呼ばれない。 そもそも誰も不審に思わないから謎も起こらない。おじいさんは今日も一人でのんびり森の奥で暮らしているんだろうね。で、お空におじいさんの顔が浮かんで、ジエンド。どう？こんな感じで。
すごいじゃないか。それちゃんとしたトリックだよ。
でも娯楽小説にはならないわね。推理小説は所詮娯楽書。完全犯罪の指南書にはなり得ないんだから。
Or can they? I was trying hard to talk cheerfully to fool her, but inside I was excited. Special tools, a strange geography, mysterious drugs, traps involving huge sums of cash, none of them were needed for perfect crimes. The important thing was that there wasn't a beginning. As long as the incident didn't come to light, it would be fine. Speaking broadly, if I could kill him without anyone finding out, dispose of the corpse somewhere no one could find. Yeah, how would you do that in a tiny village like Hinamizawa? Of course, if someone up and vanished one day, all of a sudden people would be as suspicious. But that didn't apply to this man. Last year, after their aunt died, he ran away from the village in fear of Orishiro-sama. Then, when the night of Watanagashi came around again, everyone would have to think that he ran away again in fear. I mean, he had been living with a lover in his town, of his in town. No matter what it felt like when he vanished, no one would be suspicious. People hated him after all. No one would care where he went if he disappeared. When I thought about it like that, it got easier and easier to imagine killing him. There was no point in thinking inside my house anymore. Oh shit. I left getting my bike out the garage. For now, it didn't matter where I was going. I just rode through the wind, trying to calm my excitement by feeling the cool air on my body. Where I'd kill him, how I'd do it, what time, and how to dispose of the corpse. If I had those 4 things, I could get a good plan going. I was so surprised at how little there was to decide that I shivered. I've been completely prepared to build this humongous plan over a really long period of time. But if I could just get these little things in order, I could put it into motion. Today was Saturday. I would have to kill him on the night of Watanagashi, so as long as I was standing in for Oeshiro-sama, I only had 24 hours remaining. Satoko, just hang on for 24 more hours. I can't even imagine having to suffer through even more, but please, hold out for a little longer. I know you can't even last another second, I know that, but please just hold out. Your Nini will save you for sure. Outside, it was still early enough for the cicadas to be crying. Early afternoon. Evening was still a long way off. I looked at the sky at some point and it had gotten cloudy. Come to think of it, as I left the house, I heard on the TV that the weather forecast was calling for a chance of rain on Sunday. The sky was the color of lead. New song? If I heard a little bit of thunder, I definitely have expected a sudden evening shower. My first destination was school. For explaining why I was going there, I needed to explain what method for killing that man I had decided upon. I decided that the most suitable death, the one I needed to give him, was the same as last year's curse. The same as the punishment their aunt had received, being beaten to death. Wouldn't beating him to death be somewhat unreliable? You may think that stabbing him with a blade would be more reliable, but this was something I had chosen after a lot of thought. You just needed to think realistically. The law, it prohibited carrying any blades longer than 10 centimeters, I think. So the blades available to me, even the longest ones, were still limited to things shorter than a ruler. You can probably understand how tricky it would be with such a short reach to go up against an opponent that might fight back. In that case, a weapon with more reach, like a staff, would be far more advantageous. It might not be quite as inherently lethal, but since you could just keep hitting the guy until you killed him, the end result was the same. So what's a staff-like deadly weapon, terrifyingly powerful and also eminently portable? Baseball bat. You should immediately think of a metal baseball bat. I don't need to explain how terrifying a metal baseball bat can be as a weapon. Of special note is the fact that you can carry one around in broad daylight and not be thought of as suspicious. Those 2 points would have been enough to choose a metal bat for my weapon. But there was one more reason for choosing a metal bat in particular. I will speak about it later. To school that Saturday, my classmates were still having fun playing in the schoolyard. I could show up there and it would be the same as always, so nobody will think I'm suspicious. Getting my hands on the weapon without looking suspicious was actually a factor I couldn't ignore. I didn't normally play baseball, so if I went to a sports store looking for a metal baseball bat, it would definitely be suspicious. I can't let there be a beginning to the story, so I needed to be really careful even about that. That left school at a location at which my appearance wouldn't be suspicious. I would acquire the weapon. I checked inside the classroom through the window, but of course there was nobody there. The only students who would stay in there were me and the others when doing club activities. Without us, the classroom after school was just an empty, unused room. Without glancing around nervously as if I'd just gone to get something I'd forgotten, I casually went in the entrance. It looked like the teacher was busy with paperwork in the teacher's lounge. I didn't see her in the hallway. Naturally, yet quickly as a shadow, I entered the classroom. The empty room was full of strange, stagnant air that you couldn't feel normally. An empty classroom with nobody here. Maybe while no one was around, the desks creep about of their own accord, licking the floors clean of dirt. If I suddenly stepped into a place like that, would the desks and their surprise fly at me, crush my bones, and eat me alive?
バカバカしい。
I felt regret at wasting valuable thinking time on stupid delusions. The students' lockers were lined up in the back of the classroom. The one I was looking for wasn't my own. It was a forbidden locker. One I had accidentally discovered one day.
北条。間違いない。
If one person has one locker, then why would only Satoko have two? I'd made a fuss about it once. After that, I learned it was Satoshi's locker, and he had the same last name as her. But of course, even though it was a locker for a student no longer here, looking inside it was still a shameless act. But one time, I let my curiosity get the better of me and took a peek inside. Inside, it was average and worthless at the time. I hadn't been interested, so until now, I'd forgotten what had been in it. But now that I had, dare I say it, awakened, I remembered the thing that had been there. It's great. I opened the locker and a stench of mold and sweat wafted out like a gym storehouse that hadn't been cleaned in weeks. My face puckered up at the stench, but I looked for it. Yes, Satoshi was on Coach's baseball team. Inside the locker was a Hinamizawa fighter's uniform, and it, the one Satoshi used, the metal bat. Yes, this was the reason I wanted to choose this bat. This murder would be carried out by me, but this wasn't originally my role, it was Satoshi's. What if Satoshi did the same thing and that's why he had to be disappeared by Hinamizawa, so that he wouldn't be caught, you know? And then it's probably going to be the same thing for us. But I would stand in for him and call myself Satoko's Nini. It was one of the rules for standing in for him. I reached for the metal bat and grasped it firmly. It was light, and yet its tip had enough heft in it, enough to easily imagine the horror if I brought it down with all my might. Satoshi, I'll give you one last chance to save your sister. Lend me your strength. You're a coward, but I will stand in for you. So if you still care even a little bit about her, you will lend me your strength. There is no more suitable weapon in the world for putting that man to death than your bat. Now I just need to figure out where to hide it. Tomorrow, before the act, I would just stop by the school and grab it. Because I couldn't ignore the possibility someone would see me bringing it home and think it was strange. But if I left it here, there wouldn't be a problem. Plus, tomorrow was Sunday. Not only that, it was the day of the biggest festival in the whole village. Nobody would be coming to school. I left out the entrance and went over to a construction vehicle parked nearby. We've been warned by our teacher not to touch it just for a laugh, so none of the kids would come near the vehicle either. They wouldn't, because if she found out they touched it, they'd be in huge trouble. I quietly hid it in the shadow of the vehicle. Chances of someone operating the vehicle tomorrow were slim to none, because tomorrow was Sunday. Government workers had the day off. And from that, what my classmates had said, the thing had been left there for years now. Machines that haven't been moved in years, you can't just suddenly start them up again. So I almost definitely find I was almost definitely fine in this case. The sunlight was piercing hot. My head grew faint for a moment. Had the heat been this harsh for the entire day? A moment of dull thoughts like this was a moment of carelessness. I gave myself a couple hits in the head, then looked around warily. Okay, next, how to dispose of the corpse. He may be in jail for smashing the aunt. They just don't want Satoko to know. Maybe. Disposing of the corpse. The ultimate way not to create a beginning was to not let the corpse be found. It was even more important than killing him. Thinking on it vaguely, the first thing that came to mind was a swamp. Onigafuchi, the dreadful bottomless swamp, revered even now, that appeared in the legends of Onigafuchi village. Yes, a swamp called Onigafuchi was here first, and then the village took its name to become Onigafuchi village. In other words, the swamp was the origin of Onigafuchi village. No one, no matter who it was, would float back to the surface of this bottomless swamp. Everyone would be swallowed down into the land of demons below the earth. Oops. That was how the stories went. If I was trying to copy Oishiro-sama's curse, then I felt that the theory demanded I discarded the remains and the weapons into the swamp. But they may have said it's bottomless, but I didn't actually know. And people say large creatures like humans produce a lot of gas when they rot, granting a lot of buoyancy. It was why using fairly heavy objects to hold people down didn't work. Come to think of it, with the curse the year before last, Rika-chan's mother drowned herself in the swamp. And the criminal behind the dismemberment that went missing the year of the first curse too, it was rumored he tried to discard the body in the swamp and accidentally drowned in it. I never heard of the corpse coming back up or finding them. Then shouldn't I choose to discard the corpse there too? I could discard the weapon there. And then, for example, if her uncle came out on a motorcycle and attacked, it would be convenient to get rid of the bike too. I knew that Satoko's uncle generally used a motorcycle for transportation. But as for the corpse, after a lot of worrying, I decided not to discard the corpse in the swamp. The drowning, suicide, and accident were both rumors. Nobody knew if they actually happened. There were no lack of false rumors about the drowning suicide anyway, and it was possible the murderer hadn't drowned there and was still on the run. That meant no one had ever confirmed a corpse being dropped in there and then not coming back up. Then what would I do with the body? I thought it might be interesting to go with the first incident, cut him to pieces and hide him, but the preparation of work for dismembering human body would be difficult given the amount of time I had. With that out of question, I arrived at the conclusion to go with the more orthodox method of burying the body. Then where I would bury it was a question related to where I would kill him. Of course, I want to keep my time in a paradox to the body at a minimum. With that in mind, I would want to dig the hole to dump the body in beforehand, and to make the location of the act and the hole close together. The choice of where to plan the crime, that I needed to be absolutely careful and thorough with. It had to be somewhere nobody would witness it, and a place with hiding places for a sneak attack. I could dig a hole for the body right there. I go over the possibilities in my head of the various destinations her uncle would head to from Satoko's house. Imagined a map of the area in my head, and then I found a place that fulfilled those conditions so easily it was almost unbelievable. Alright, Tony, you gotta get down. You're heavy. You're fat as fuck. Oh my god. A bit of back road that went through the woods. I didn't think her uncle would go deeper into the mountains of Yagoichi on a whim. If he was going somewhere, he'd pass through these woods first. Nobody used this back way unless something to do at Satoko's house or one or two other places. This path was fantastically ideal if few people used it. I would wait for him in these woods. Would an ambush actually be possible? I went into the trees and tried really hiding myself in a few places. It was extremely quiet. My senses could be sharpened here to their maximum amount. I didn't know when he'd come, but I'd wait right here for Satoko's lunch. Why did I say Satoko's lunch? Satoko's uncle, bro. My fucking I misread uncle as lunch. Yeah, I'm hungry. That's why. I ordered some Panda Express, bro. I actually had some trouble coming to that decision. The question arose of whether I should somehow call the man out. Was there a risk I'd be taking by luring him here? That man made Satoko do all the shopping and errands. He seldom left on his own business. He wouldn't leave unless I worked out a plan to force him to, would he? What? That was the question. Tomorrow was the Watanagashi festival. Would he go out for the festival or would he stay inside? If he stayed inside, how would I drag him out of his house? That's right. Wouldn't he make Satoshi go to the festival? Satoshi would go to the festival. Meanwhile, I would call the man. This is the Okinomiya police station. We have the young lady from your house. Could you come and pick her up immediately? It didn't even have to be the police. This is a clinic. The young lady from your house has been injured. Please come and pick her up. Yes, that would work. If I claimed to be the police or the hospital, told him to come, and then hung up on him, he'd rush there trying to figure out what was going on, wouldn't he? Nah, I don't think he'd give a shit. And just the other day, he was visited by a probation officer. He wouldn't suddenly grumble about having to get his niece and not go. It would look like child neglect. The man had no skills useful around the house. Satoko, his slave, was an essential part of his daily life. Conclusion. If he went out to the festival, I would attack him here on his way there or back. If he didn't, I would lure him out by phone. If luring him out by phone was my first step, I needed to be sure Satoko would go to the festival leaving the house. It would be convenient if I could make Mion take Satoko to the festival. She said her aunt was a district welfare officer. In other words, an ally to the probation officer. If I somehow incited Mion to take Satoko to the festival with her, well, being who she was, she'd use that fact and get her there. Satoko should just take a break and have fun at the festival with everyone. She should have a good time, reminisce on her former peaceful days, and when she went home, everything would be over. Yeah, that would be the best outcome. With that decided, I needed to dig a hole somewhere in the woods to hide the body, so it wouldn't stand out, so it wouldn't be found. Someplace nobody would see me while I was completely exposed as I buried the corpse. I'd wanted it to be close to the scene of the crime, but it naturally grew further away. Deep in the bosom of the Black Forest, the voices of the Higurashi were the only sounds here, informing me that people shouldn't indiscreetly set foot in this place.
穴を掘るか。
Digging a hole with so many tree roots crawling around the ground would be far more difficult than I'd envisioned. I snuck a gardening spade out here in my bag, and that wouldn't be enough. He's gonna dig a hole with a gardening spade? Okay. Still, as I looked into various approaches, I managed to find a place I could dig into. Tomorrow, I had to bring a real shovel from the storeroom at home. I'd managed with that. I wondered how big a hole would have to be to fit a human all the way into it. I'd probably have to dig pretty deep down, but if I was slipshod in these efforts, I'd let a beginning occur. I absolutely couldn't allow that. Use any amount of time you need to. I mustn't spare any effort to utterly erase him. I glanced at my wristwatch. It was a little past 6. This was probably all I was going to get done here for today. I really wanted to dig the hole in advance tonight, even if it got dark out, but Mom would be upset if I stayed out that late. It wouldn't be good to come off as suspicious to my parents. I needed to go back home and give Mion a call soon. I needed to get her to promise Satoko to take her by tonight. After that, today would be done. Done. Would it be though? Was this really everything I could do to prepare right now? I decided where to kill him. I decided how to kill him. I decided, of course, how to dispose of the body. I didn't decide on a time, but I would play that by ear. I didn't have a way to go decide that. Was that really all? Was this really all right? Have I overlooked anything? Would this really go how I planned? After all this, worries started welling up one after another. It was only natural I'd be anxious. This would be the first and last big job of my lifetime. I could not allow failure, and I had no experience as this was my first time. I didn't have the know-how, the knack, so it was only natural I'd be anxious. The dark clouds of unease told me doing nothing would be the easiest way. A truly pathetic suggestion this late in the game. Have you forgotten how miserable Satoko looked? From the outside, it may have looked like it was resolute, but deep in my heart, my knees were shaking loudly. I never actually won a single fight to my satisfaction. Could I really kill someone? I may have been planning an ambush, but my enemy was larger and far older than me. He had a scary face, and he looked like he was well accustomed to fighting. Could I have? All the pieces before and after the murder were perfectly planned. But was the actual murder the most important part? What's unsettled me the most? All my preparation, all my perfectly concealed machinations. If I didn't successfully murder him, they amounted to nothing. Damn it! After coming this far, you're pathetic, Keiichi Marubara. If you start to have these kinds of thoughts, your ulterior motives will be obvious. Let's go home and calm your mind. Tomorrow will be a juncture in your life the likes of which graduation, employment, marriage, and childbirth couldn't hold a candle to. A day of murder. To kill someone for someone else's sake. With that day behind us, we would take it back again. Those mild spring-like days we never thought would stop, those safe, peaceful, fun times. I pedaled my bicycle hard to get back home. I felt somehow unsteady, like my body and soul weren't in alignment. A subtle shift between where the tips of my hands and feet really were and where I felt them to be. My vision was a little distant and narrow, as if the great barrier I risked my future life on had nothing to do with me. An unreal sensation. How could I put it? Everything was so far away. Fine. Feel your unease permeate you, Keiichi Marubara. If that will turn your timidity into meticulousness and allow you to act with greater caution, then it's actually an important emotion to feel. This feeling I had never went away that night. It was the first time I'd called Mion's house. I searched for her in the phone book and the school gave me, then dialed a short phone number, the kind unique to remote places. I think Mion's gonna know what he's trying to do. It was around dinner time. She would probably be home. But just as I started to think nobody would respond, someone finally picked up the receiver.
はい、園崎です。
あ、夜分遅くにすみません。ミオンか。
どちら様です？
Is this Shion?
俺だよ、ケイチだ。
ああ、ケイちゃんか。何こんな時間に。
She seemed to be in a weirdly good mood and she drew her syllables out. Right, it's the night before tomorrow's festival. She's probably with her family having some
悪いな、
drinks.
こんな時間に。今、時間は大丈夫か？
うん。何？
サトコのことなんだけど。
I heard her draw in a small breath on the other
さ
end.
とこ、大変なことになっちゃったね。大丈夫かな？
The scent of sake had completely disappeared from her
大
voice.
丈夫なわけないだろう。お前も見ただろ。あれ。
あんな擦り切れるまでにいじめ抜かれて、俺たちはあんなになるまでずっと見捨ててきた。
見捨ててたわけじゃないよ。みんな助けようとして必死に考えてたよ。
でも、結局何も思いつかなかったし、サトコを救えたわけじゃないだろう。結局、あんなになるまで、俺たちは何もできなかった。
そうだね。私は結局見てただけかも。
だからさ、せめて一夜くらい遊ばせてやろうじゃないか。
遊ばせるって。
あいつもいろいろと参ってるのわかる。だからさ、明日の綿流しのお祭りにあいつを連れて行ってやってほしいんだ。
それは構わないけど、どうして？
どうしてって、せめて祭りの夜くらい息抜きさせてやりたいじゃないか。たとえ一夜でもあの意地悪なおじの元から離れられるなら、短い時間でもきっとサトコは喜ぶ。
だからどうして？
どうしてって何がだよ。
She knows. I was having a little difficulty understanding what Mion was asking
ど
me.
うして？ケイちゃんが連れて行ってあげないの？私に頼まなきゃならないの？
Mion was persistent about odd things. No, maybe it'd be better to say that she was sharp.
実はちょっと明日は用事があってさ、祭りには行けない。だからサトコ、ミオンが連れて行ってやってほしい。
用事って？
大した用事じゃないんだ。多分すぐに片付くと思うけど、ひょっとすると明日は合流できないかもしれない。なあミオン、明日の夜だけサトコを頼めないか。
Mion took a long time to give her a reply. I got the feeling that Mion had been acting weird for a while now. Like she was flustered by emotions or something.
いや、
Was that a sob? Mion? Are you
私
crying?
嫌だって言ったじゃない。
That's Shion.
私なんかに押し付けられても困るって。
別に
That
押し
totally
付ける
sounds
つ
like
もりなんかないよ。明日の夜だけでいいんだ。
嘘だったじゃない。
What? Mion, what was she talking
綿
about?
流しの夜だけって言って結局ずっとだった。
Oh, So, I think this was Shion, and she's talking about what Satoshi did. And Satoshi did the same thing.
嘘つき。でもおあいこかな。私全然あなたとの約束。あの子はずっとほったらかしだしね。
I have no idea what to say to that. Mion was clearly now talking to someone other than me. I didn't know who. All I could do was listen to her in a
あれから
daze.
ずっと帰ってこないのに、あの子のことをもう一度押し付けるためだけに、本当にずるい人。ねえ、あなた、サトシ君なんでしょう。
ミオン、さっきから何の話だ。
When I said her name, whatever spell was on Mion was released.
あ
See, now her voice changed.
ごめん。なんでもないの。ちょっと、ケイちゃんの今の電話にそっくりな電話を昔受けたことがあって。
それ、ひょっとしてサトシか。
Mion didn't answer. All I could hear were sobs coming through the receiver.
ごめんね。ちょっと私、寝ぼけてるみたい。変なとこで感情的になっちゃった。ごめんね。焦ったでしょ。
I had no idea how it happened, but I was pretty sure that last year on this very day, Satoshi had called Mion and told her to bring Satoko to the festival. And when she asked why he needed her to do it, he replied the same way I just did.
サトシ、祭りに行かなかったんだな。
うん。用事があるから自分は行けないって言って。代わりに、私にサトコを祭りに連れて行ってくれって。
その時、サトシも言ったんだな。サトコを頼むって。
うん。言ったよ。明日の夜だけ頼むってね。ケイちゃんの言い方があまりにもよく似てたんで。ちょっと思い出して取り乱しちゃった。
I didn't expect this. Satoshi had given her exact same phone call 1 year ago today. After that, Mion had said more. That he was lying, that he told her it would be only for the night of the
そうだ
festival.
ったな。サトシはその数日後に消えた。
Disappeared might have been a rather vague way to put it. Whether he ran away or not, Satoshi left, abandoning Satoko.
そう。天候でもなく、家出でもなく、消えたの。
And then an idea for far more indistinct than even fog crossed my mind. Satoshi made exactly the same phone call as me last year. Why would Satoshi make that exact same call? If in the truest sense he really made the exact same phone call as I am right now, then the incident where their aunt was beaten to death, could it?
サトシ。
え？何が？
Last year, Satoko had been constantly abused by the uncle's wife, their aunt too. Her aunt abused her the most, and on that night, in the name of Orishiro-sama's curse, she was taken from this world. If I thought about that, everything made sense, didn't it?
サトコのおばが殴り殺されたじゃないか。あれ、サトシってことは考えられないか。
No, but that would mean... But then Satoshi, he was a coward who abandoned Satoko and ran away, wasn't he? How could Satoshi resolve himself to kill a person to save Satoko? It was unthinkable.
私も 実はそれを疑ったことがある。サトシには悪いけど。
A few days later, he disappeared on Satoko's birthday. When I first heard it, I flew into a rage. What a cruel day to have run away on. But now that I thought about it like this, the story changed completely. Satoshi had probably been even less calm than I was now. He was her big brother related by blood, watching his little sister be abused day in, day out. Maybe that's why he couldn't keep calm. And that was why the corpse of their aunt beaten to death was so easily discovered. Satoshi lost himself in his anger and hadn't hidden the corpse. He'd permitted a beginning to occur. If the police conducted a full-blown investigation, it was easy to imagine they wouldn't take long to pin down Satoshi as the culprit. Satoshi. He wished for a return to peaceful days with Satoko, and though he achieved it for a time, he had been steadily driven into a corner. And then he wanted to at least hold out until Satoko's birthday, but finally they nailed him. At the time, Satoshi had been carrying the savings he'd amassed to buy Satoko a giant stuffed animal for her birthday present. He would buy the stuffed animal as her gift and then get caught. Or he could use the money and disappear. That was the choice he had been forced to make. And he decided not to make Satoko the sister of a murderer. If that was the case, then it must have been an unspeakably bitter decision. All that money he'd saved wanted to save Satoko, he just had to use it to make her sad. And he used the savings and disappeared to Tokyo if the rumors were true.
サトシはそれで消えたのか。
それはわからない。大石なんかはそう思ってるみたいだけどね。
That Oishi guy. Oishi. Had he been slowly driven into a corner by that repulsive man's pig-headed pursuit?
確かに状況証拠は揃ってるけど、多分ケイちゃんの推理は外れだと思う。県内のどっかで捕まったろくでなしが犯行を自供したっていうし。
That was right. The deviant had confessed and the incident
そい
was
つは本
solved.
当にただの異常者で、ひなみ沢とは何の縁もない男だったって。もちろんサトシとも何の関係もない。だからそんな奴がサトシの身代わりになって嘘をついてくれたなんて到底思えないし。
What if the crazy person they found was actually Satoshi having completely lost his mind and turned into a fucking demon? You couldn't just arbitrarily decide like that. You never know where or how humans are tied together. If that guy took the blame, then it was a perfect crime. Of course, if it was really a perfect crime, there would have been no reason for Satoshi to vanish.
それにサトシには逃亡資金なんてなかったと思う。サトシが預金を下ろした日。これは誰に言っても信じてくれないんだけど、サトコのために買うと言ってたぬいぐるみが売れてショーケースからなくなってたの。きっとサトシが買ったに違いない。
ちょっと待てよ。逃走資金に使わないでぬいぐるみを買うために使ったならサトコのところへ帰るはずだろ。ぬいぐるみを買ってそれを届けもせずに蒸発するなんて考えられない。
うん。だからわからなくなっちゃうんだよ。まとまったお金があるならともかく、貯金を全部使っちゃったならサトシは無一文。お金もなく逃亡生活ができるほど世の中は甘くないよ。
I didn't get it. After all that, I was understanding Satoshi less and less. The two of us fell silent. I couldn't remember how we even got on this topic.
ごめん、どこで話が脱線しちゃったんだか。サトコの件ね、安心していいよ。実はもうちゃんと誘ってあるんだよ。
え、本当かよ。
祭りの準備でみんなで神社に行った時さ、サトコを祭りに呼ぼうって話になったんだよ。それで集会所の電話でそのまま電話して誘ったんだ。おじのやつよそよそしくて勝手にしろみたいな感じだったけど、とりあえず OK はしてくれた。明日みんなで待ち合わせしていくことになってるんだよ。安心した？サトシ。
バカ、俺はサトシじゃないって。
I was a little relieved. I hadn't needed to make the phone call. Satoko had already been invited to the festival. And not in a way that smelled of blood, a way to leave her uncle alone to create time for me to kill him. They purely wanted Satoko to enjoy herself, so they invited her. In the end, it was the same, but I was happy for that slight
す
difference.
まないな。俺が電話をするまでもなかった。昨日にしろ今日にしろ変な話ばかりしてすまないな。忘れてくれ。
こっちこそ本当に申し訳ない。柄にもなく取り乱しちゃって本当にごめん。
We apologized to each other for
じ
a
ゃ
little
あ俺
bit.
はこれで失礼するな。おやすみ。
何の用事？
Gosh. As if interrupting our parting words, Mion struck straight where it hurt.
それもまたサトシと同じように言えない？
バカ。だから俺はサトシじゃないって言ってるだろ。
そんなのは分かってるよ。
I deflected her with a response that really wasn't an answer. Mion didn't hound me anymore about that
じゃ
after
あ
that.
今度こそおやすみな。
どうしてケイちゃんがサトシ君と全く同じ電話をしてきたのかわからないけれど、なんでもない。ごめんね。おやすみ。
切るぞ。
Click. Satoshi Hojo. Just who are you? I scorned you as a coward who ran away abandoning his sister. I always thought you didn't have the right to call yourself her Nini, but now I didn't know what to think. Oyashiro-sama's curse on the 4th year, their aunt's death and Satoshi's disappearance, and now me trying to carry out Oyashiro-sama's curse on the 5th. Oddly enough, what I was going to do overlapped perfectly with Satoshi the day before the curse. No, that wasn't all. If we start back from Satoko being abused, then I've been overlapping with Satoshi for days already. When I talked to Mion before, she asked me if I was Satoshi. If that was the first impression of a third party like Mion got, then it was probably true. That as Satoshi had accomplished, I would succeed in the murder. But that was the extent to which we overlapped. I was far calmer than Satoshi and more calculating. Yeah, okay, bro. I could actually grow calmer the more enthusiastic I became. That's why I wouldn't follow in Satoshi's footsteps. I would snip him cleanly out of the world and then get our peaceful life back. Maybe Satoshi had been with me ever since I chose to use Satoshi's bat as my weapon. No, maybe even longer than that. When I decided I'd be her Nini, maybe Satoshi had been residing within me then too. Satoshi, were you really a coward? Or are you the true Nini even now? The kind worthy of Satoko's love? I'd never meet him, never spoken to him, didn't even know his face, and yet I felt so connected to him. I never felt that way before. Shit. Wow. Perfect timing. My dinner is almost here. That was a nice short chapter. Wow, that was way too short, but listen, chat, I'm actually about to like fall asleep, all right? Like, I'm so tired. No, listen, chat, I can't, okay? Chat, if we don't have the Magic the Gathering tournament on Sunday, we will do 2 chapters on Sunday, okay? 100%. Like I said, tomorrow we have the Magic the Gathering tournament, and I have to go there. I have to drive up like super fucking early. It's a full production thing, and they need to do like the whole like everything pre-production wise, and it's a long drive, and there have some crazy fucking protests happening in LA, so I need to make sure wherever we fucking do drive, we don't run into some crazy shit. So will you IRL stream? No, most likely I will have FlyQuest just restream to my stream. So you guys should be seeing the official broadcast through my stream, and then you guys could just hang out and chat and watch. I'll be checking on chat here and there to see what you guys are talking about, you know. But yeah, that's I think that's gonna be it for us today. Thank you everybody for hanging out. Yes, sir. Let's feed our duckies here. Oh man, that was kind of quick. That was like a 1 hour chapter, bro. That's a 1 hour chapter. That was like one of the shortest chapters for sure. I'm surprised it was so short. Anyways, chat, I will see y'all tomorrow. Thank you everybody for hanging out. I sent you guys over to Ant. He's playing Wuthering Waves. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye. Oh my god, I'm so fucking hungry. Oh.